Hi guys, welcome and come on in. I'm just setting up Facebook and I think that's okay. So Facebook is set up, YouTube is set up. So I'm just going to give everybody a moment to come on in. Hi guys, welcome. We're doing a live video today on deprogramming and Ascension. Hi Jen. Me too. I'm excited for this video as well. I'm going to be sharing more as I go along with things. And I have a surprise after this video that I will tell you guys about in a minute. So Facebook Live, I'm doing this for the first time from my phone, Facebook Live. Hi, Facebook friends. Let us know where you're coming from when you sign in. And my YouTubers, please shout out so I can say hello as you come on in. I really want to play some music, but I don't even know what the rules are about all this music stuff now. You need rights or you don't need rights or whatever it is, right? So I know Jen's watching me on YouTube. Who else is here? Just type it in the comments box and say hello as we wait for everyone to come in, and then we're going to get started in like a minute or two, okay? There it is. I found myself. Share. I need rights for the music. I figured something like that. And I think with YouTube, they have actual like pre-things that you can join in. So, and order it or get it. I just didn't know about anything about that. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and start. I don't see anybody on Facebook. I see my friends on YouTube, but I don't know what is coming in. So I see like a finger go up. I feel like a. Oh, good. Hi, on YouTube, Raju. I don't know what. Okay, so it is Lewis. Okay. I can't tell who's watching me on Facebook. I can tell who's watching me on YouTube, but not Facebook. All right. I'm going to start because this video is going to be up on YouTube for a while. So for some of you, you might be watching this as a replay. And some of you may not know me. Clearly, I'm talking to people on Facebook, on YouTube that know me. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Uma. I'm the owner of Lotus Wellness Center. It's a metaphysical wellness center in Northern Virginia. And I own Lotus Signature Massage School. Hi, Lewis. Now I can see you. And I'm in Northern Virginia. I am an intuitive consultant, a metaphysical teacher, a consciousness speaker, and the author of The Awakened Life through Balboa Press Publishing, and the Amazon best-selling author, one of the authors for Heal Thyself. I'm going to start this talk by first saying I am not an expert. By no means I'm an expert or a master or a guru. Let's get that clear, all right? I am someone. Hi, Ashley Cherie. Good morning. I am someone like everyone that is trying to make sense of this Earth School and to have a good experience. I think that's what we're all trying to do, right? At least most of us. We're trying to have a good experience and we're trying to just make it out and learn some things along the way. Hi, Kimberly. Welcome. So the talk today is coming from a personal place. So I'm going to ask you again to hold your judgments till the end, or just hold them in because it's a personal opinion. It's a personal perspective on something that's been going on that I want to share my personal journey, because I'm noticing as you guys interact with me on YouTube, as you interact with me on Facebook, I'm noticing we all have similar stories and I want to share. So that's the place I'm coming from. If some of you are watching and you're like, she's coming from a place of greed or entitlement. No, I'm coming from a place of this is happening to me. I feel it may help some people and I'm hoping it does. And then that way we can all be happy. Okay, so what's happening? So we all know about the Ascension. Hi, Brandy. Good morning. We all know about the Ascension. We talk about it. You probably hear about it. Oh, you're ascending. Oh, you're up leveling. Oh, you're vibrating higher. And you're like, what? What is all this about? It's about our consciousness, okay? It's about how we think. In simple terms, the way you taught as a person when you were 10 years old is not the way you think now as a 30-year-old or a 40-year-old. That's the basic way. You love my sweatshirt? it's the force. It's the force. And that's it, right? It's about changing our perception as we go through life. One of the people that I have low tolerance for, I can't say I hate them or I dislike them. I'm just, tolerance is a whole different energy. But one of the kinds of people I have low tolerance for are people who are very stuck in their mindsets. If they're rigid in thinking, if they refuse to change, I tend not to hang out with these people. And there's no judgment on them. I accept them where they are, but we can't interact. We can't breathe. We can't grow. We can't learn. Does that make sense? And we have those people in our lives, whether they're our family members or close friends or, you know, friends or family of our loved ones that we're with. We have these people in our lives. And I feel like I literally can't breathe. Yeah, Jen and Brandy are like, yes, makes sense. By the way, guys, I'm always going to be that Facebook, YouTube person that loves interaction. So you don't have to wait to talk. Like, let's chat it out. This is a coffee house chat. I even got my coffee and everything. Right. Raju's identifying. Lewis is identifying. Right. And it could feel, yeah, Brandy says they're stifling. That's how it could feel. It could feel like you can't breathe. So what I choose to do in my understanding is I just choose to let them be. And then when I see them, I interact with them for a couple hours, a couple days. And then, you know, it's stressful for those couple days or, you know, hours, but then you go back to your flow and your community. And that's why it's so important. With me, I created Lotus Wellness Center to create community so that we have each other, so that we can go out there into the real world and deal with all that and then come back to each other and say, hug me, see me, just love me, okay, the way I am. That was the whole point of me creating Lotus Wellness Center. Why do they do this and feel it's okay? I'm getting to that. I love where your mind's at. It's because of the dimension that they're on. So in study, in physics, in everything else, they've talked about the dimensions. Some people say there's 10 dimensions. Some say there's 12. I'm going to do a blog on it next week, so look out for that about the different dimensions. But for the sake of this conversation, I'm going to talk about third to sixth. Okay, I'm going to talk about third to sixth dimension because the people that exist. Now, first of all, let me describe what's been going on. I have my notes because I have to stay on track. You guys know I'm like always going off track. We are actually in the middle of an ascension period. And what that means is that the period, the 7 years from 2015 to 2022, okay, 2015 to 2022. And can somebody on Facebook please write that down in the comments? And somebody on YouTube, please write that down in the comments. That is what we all recognize in the spiritual community as the ascension period, 2015 to 2022. Interestingly enough, my partner Rob and I, we knew each other as friends since 2011, but we didn't get together until January 1st, 2015. Isn't that amazing, right? We got together January 1st, 2015, and we had no idea back then that that was the ascension period. You know, now all the stuff's coming out. Oh, hey, cuz. Thank you, Ashley, Sherry. Right, it's the ascension period. So what does the ascension period mean? It means it's the full anchoring of the fifth dimension, and it's the complete explosion, blowing up, disintegration of the fourth dimension. So that's what's been happening since 2015. That's why you're feeling what you're feeling on an internal level. Okay. Jen says she met her fiance November 2015. If you look at 2015, look at the people who you met, because I also met my soul tribe, which is Jen, my friend from California, Ronnie, my friend from Australia. We met at Brian Weiss's class, Past Life. We became past life regression therapists at Brian Weiss's class at Omega Institute, July 2015. I met my twin flame, my soulmate, Rob. Well, we knew each other, but we came together in 2015. And I also lost a tribe of women I was hanging out with in 2015. So go back to 2015 and start to think about this, what was happening for you, because it's going to be telling about your journey. Okay? Now, this ascension period, 2015 to 2022, it is the full anchoring of the fifth dimension. It's the collapse of the fourth dimension. Now, when I talk about dimensions, people think like, oh, we're moving somewhere. Are we going somewhere? Like, are we going from England to France, America to Australia? It's not like that. A dimension is not an actual place. It's not a stuffed place in time. What a dimension is a point of perception. It is a consciousness. It is a level of consciousness. So to answer your question, Lewis, the reason why they're like that is because their point of perception is coming from a 3D, a third dimension place. Does that make sense? And most of you are fourth dimension, and some of you are fifth dimension, and even fewer of you are sixth and beyond. Okay? But a dimension is not an actual place. It's a point of perception. It's a consciousness. So what are the dimensions? Okay? By the way, living on the third, the fourth, the fifth dimension, it doesn't mean that you're in a changed location. We all have the same reality, but we have different perceptions. Does this make sense? Do I know what dimension my consciousness is on? So, good question. I know within myself, I am fifth or above. And that actually came up. And I love how validation works. It never really bothered to me. I just kind of roll with it. But I had one of my favorite students. She does this dimension work and levels and all that stuff. And she one time muscle tested on me. I didn't know. She just muscle tested on me. She had a scale of like emotions and things of that nature. And she muscle tested on me to find out where I was on the scale. And her scale went up to 500 because it just said 500 to 1,000. And she said that my results were beyond 500. So she just stopped testing. And when she was telling me this in class, I heard 725. So whether that's seventh dimension or just on the scale of enlightenment, 725, that's what came up. Okay. The only thing I know is I know I got to be up there in some kind of way because a lot of things that used to bother me before don't bother me anymore. A lot of things that I used to fight for before, I don't fight for anymore. I've noticed a shift within myself. It's not so important what dimension I'm on about it. It's more important that I've just made the shift. My cousin says, Wahida, my dreams make so much more sense. They've always felt like memories, right? Or things happening while I slept. Awesome. Raju, I started looking at people's problems as something people are seeing. Recently it was like Spirit said, don't judge. This is a great entryway into what we're about to talk about. So let's talk about people that exist on the third dimension. Third dimension is the physical reality. In the third dimension, it's where we believe in the absolutes. You always do this. You never do that. Like there's that belief system in absolutes. There's also a belief in polar opposites. Okay? Good, bad, right, wrong, black, white. There's no gray. It has to be one or the other. It's what we call the duality. It's the duality, right? In the third dimension, we judge people. We judge people off of how they look, how they talk, their education, their money. And for some of you, please don't get like highfalutin and be like, oh, I don't judge people. You know, think about it this way. If you're single and you're on a dating website, if you're making judgments based off of appearances, you might be a little judgy, right? So just let's not go into this of I'm not that person. It happens to everybody. On third dimension, we seek happiness outside of ourselves. So we would seek happiness in money, in gaining material things like a car, a home, nice clothes. We can seek happiness in a relationship. Yes, yes. Wahida says third dimension is in the box. That's it. Because I used to do twin flame readings on YouTube because I'm in a twin flame relationship, and Rob and I have had a lot of mystical, magical moments that we wanted to share with people to kind of help them figure out this twin flame relationship. But then what happened was I realized that there was a lot of people that are in twin flame relationships, but there was even more people in codependent relationships. And they were using the excuse of twin flame or soulmate to excuse someone's bad behavior. And that's never okay. I don't care if you're my twin flame or not. If you treat me like crap, I'm out of here. Right? So I stopped doing the twin flame readings because to me, it was giving people ammunition to take what their partner was dealing them or not giving to them and use the excuse of twin flame or soulmates, and that's not okay. So if you're in third dimension, you're seeking happiness outside yourself. If somebody wants to keep track, I have a list here, and I'll go through it and we can write it down. But so far, third dimension, you judge people, you believe in polar opposites, good, bad, right, wrong. You seek happiness outside of yourself. You compete with others. You're not happy for other people. I know for a fact, just from that aspect, Lewis is not third dimensional at all. Lewis LV Dennis, for those of you that don't know, that's on Facebook. He owns LV Dining Room Discussions. And Lewis is a big part, an integral part of the Manassas, Virginia community because he promotes all these businesses in Manassas. He gets no kickback at all. That's moving out of the third dimension because he's not competing with anyone. He's not looking for a handout. He's just coming from his heart. And we're going to talk more about what that means, coming from your heart. So there's no competition. There's competition on the third dimension. You also only see life from your own point of view. Okay. Jen says, I'll catch the rest on replay. Heading to work. Thank you, love. Thank you for joining in. So you can only see life from your own point of view. You cannot take into consideration somebody else's point of view. You can't entertain the idea that this might be different than how you're seeing it, feeling it, knowing it to be. That's third dimensional. You believe there's only one truth. Okay? So a third dimension person might say, marriage is only between man and woman. God put animals on this earth to eat them. Right? I'm trying to think of things that's not too triggering, but yet triggering. Raju says, people tend to melt when you come from the heart versus have conflict with you in the world. Exactly. So that third dimension personality is there's only one truth, and my truth is in alignment with that one truth. It's one truth applies to all. And on the third dimension, people are only concerned with money, relationships, health. Like they're only concerned, that's what in their bubble. Once it's about them and for them, that's what they're concerned about. That's third dimension. So we talk about third dimension in this whole talk because we have people in our lives that are third dimensional. And the idea here is not to judge them because that's going to take you back out of your dimension. And can you do that? Yes, you can. You can jump from dimension to dimension. You could be absolutely in your heart space, oming all day, and you're in that flow and fifth dimension. And then somebody, honks a horn at you in traffic and you're right back out. So you can absolutely, because remember, what is a dimension? It's not an actual place you live in. It's a point of perception. So I love seeing when light workers jump out of their element for a moment because it's kind of, I don't mean to laugh, it's just kind of cool to watch, like this, just this really Om Shanti person, and then they're just like, rawr. Yeah, Raju's like, definitely has happened to me. It's happened to me. That's why I'm laughing too, because I'm not judging anybody. I'm just like, hey, you could take me out of my element real quick, okay? But that's the third dimension. So we don't want to be hard on people for being at or living or existing in third dimension, because we go there sometimes, we go there sometimes. Now let's talk about the fourth dimension. This is where consciousness begins to awaken. So in fourth dimension, what happens is we start to challenge the beliefs, the systems of the third dimension, right? I had a client this week, and she's in this place. She's in the fourth dimension now because she's challenging. She comes from a strong Catholic background. And there's that belief in monogamy, or you must get married and have children, or you can't have sex before marriage. And she's questioning all of that and saying, she's a young girl. And she's saying, hi, Marlene. And she's saying, I feel like sex is a good thing because it feels good. And if it feels good, why would it be bad? And I know some of you guys are like, psh, you're so over that conversation, but understand people are having these conversations and we have to hold space for them. Okay? We have to hold space for the people that are now waking up or that are having these shifts in their mindsets, and we can't judge them. We have to hold space for them, and we have to be like, yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah. Why would sex be bad? Right? The other part of the fourth dimensional shift, which might be interesting to you, is that on this level, some people tend to actually be very angry or resentful, but not the way that they were angry or resentful in the third dimension. They're now angry and resentful to society. So when you see people talking about like conspiracy theories, or wanting to bring society, the paradigms down, like Monsanto and GMOs, or the FDA, right? That's the fourth dimension energy. There's power in it, because it's almost like when you pull the blindfold off and you see everything as it is, and you get really angry because you're like, why? Some people in fourth dimension have problems with their parents. They're fighting back. They're fighting back with their parents. And if their parents were really strict, that fight can be really, really volatile. So on the fourth dimension, you still have judgment, but it has a spiritual theme now. All right. And the spiritual theme, hi, Venturia. The spiritual theme is, I'm awake now and they're asleep and I have to save them, or, oh, bless their heart, feel sorry for them, they're not awakened like us. That's judgment. But it has a spiritual theme. It's when you go vegetarian or vegan and you judge people who eat meat. Or if you don't drink alcohol and you judge people who do, that's still judgment. Just because you're judging from the spiritual place doesn't make it less than what it is. Raju says all of 2016 and 2017 for me, shaking my head. I know, right? It's like when we start to reflect back on what we went through, we're like, wow, didn't realize all that was happening. There's a need in the fourth dimension. The general feeling of fourth dimension is I must warn others. So whether you go as far as exposing conspiracy theories, or you're just kind of trying to get people to eat better, do better, pray more, meditate more, do yoga more, the minute you leave your sandbox and you get into somebody else's sandbox, you're judging. Right? And you're in that fourth dimension place. You're coming from a good place, but the way you're going about it is what's going to be an issue. The other thing about the fourth dimension, as you're having this consciousness awakening, is a lot of times people see the ego as a bad thing. It's like now rage war on the ego. Yeah, I can't come from the ego. That's an egoic statement. Oh, I must be in my ego. And the thing is you have to remember the ego is part of you, so there's nothing bad about it. But your awakening is what's causing these feelings of resentment and anger. So if you're in this place, be honest with yourself. If you're in this place, and be okay with the fact that you're still evolving and you're still growing. Try not to have so much anger at yourself, because sometimes I see my students beat themselves up and they're like, why did I do that? I know better. And I'm like, you did that because you're working through it, right? You're in the fourth dimension and you're reprogramming, you're processing all these things. Now we go to the fifth dimension. In the fifth dimension, it's unconditional love of self, unconditional love of others. The ego drops and judgments fade away. What we start to realize on the fifth dimension is that the darkness that we see on the outside is actually a reflection on the inside. So that's going to be hard for some people, but that's okay. Some of you may get that already, right? Thank you, Venturia. Some of you may get that already, that the ego is not the problem. It's how you are exhibiting on the inside, and now you're seeing that reflected back to you on the outside. And that's the understanding that comes with fifth dimension. So you move away from trying to change the world and save everybody, and you start working on saving yourself. I get a lot of people that come into my center, and once we start working together, the very first thing out their mouth is, oh, I wish my husband was here. I wish my wife was here. My best friend could use this. I need to send my friend to you. Right? Thank you, Raju. Raju says so amazing and true. And that's what it is. We want, when we're in fourth dimension, we're angry. We're like, oh, we lost time. Why have I not known this for so long? We beat ourselves up, and then we start to look around us and beat everybody up, and then try to drag them to like a drum circle or drag them to meditation. But then when you go to fifth dimension, you realize, I got more problems than I thought. I need to work on myself. I don't need to be fixing them. You know, I'll fix them or they'll fix themselves later, but I got to tend to me. I got to figure this out for myself. And that's that fifth dimension, is you no longer are interested in changing the world. You're more interested on working on yourself. Your judgment fades. And the reason why your judgment fades is because you are no longer interested in investing time in a judgment. Thank you, cuz. My cuz says, best statement ever, working on saving yourself instead of others. Absolutely. I hope I have propane in the fifth dimension. That's awesome, Venturia. So the judgments fade, not because you actually stop judging. I think it's a natural human condition to want to judge people. But then you realize, I don't want to invest my energy in this. I just rather not. So then you start pulling away from people who want to judge other people. It almost feels like icky to you. You're like, I can't even, right? When I hear people now talk unkindly about other people, I have to move out the room. I can't deal with it, because it's, I went to see one of these famous physical mediums recently at a center here. And I loved his presentation on physical mediumship, but part of his presentation was about cutting other people down. And he was coming again from that place of, well, they're fakes. Well, even if they are fakes, let's just say they are, why include it in your presentation? That feels to me like a fourth dimension move. Like, I need to expose these people. And then when you get to fifth dimension, you're like, they're going to do what they're going to do. Spirit will handle it. God will handle it. The universe will handle it. I'm going to do me. All right. That's that feeling of fifth dimension. The fears fade. A lot of times we refer to the fifth dimension as being fearless. Okay. When you're fearless, you don't have anything to be worried about. Yeah, to see others rag on others. It's really hard to see, and even certain comedies I can't watch anymore, because it's like, it's too much. It's too much. So with the fifth dimension, you will know you're in a fifth dimensional viewpoint when you feel fearless. You're just kind of like, I'm going to do it anyways. I don't really care. Like, what's the worst can happen? That's the kind of things that run through your mind. It's like, I'll do it. And if I fail, I fail, right? If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Oh, well, like, it's just an experience. Just keep it moving. Now, like I said, there's 12 dimensions. We're not going to talk about all of them today, but I will mention a sixth dimension. Sixth dimension is symbology. It's the need to communicate through codes, like providing information through codes. So when you see people doing light language, right, where they're singing in different languages, or they're drawing symbols, right, that is sixth dimension. It's also Akashic records, archetypes, when you do archetypal work. astrology, when you're following the sun, the moon, the stars, you can literally spend lifetimes in sixth dimension because it's like so much knowledge, so much outpouring of information. It's the channelers, it's the realm of the channelers. And if anybody here is like, I'm interested in channeling, but I don't know how to do it, do it. I channeled before. I've channeled the beings of Estrella. I've channeled in drawing, sacred geometry, light language, which I didn't even know it was light language because I was 12 years old when I was doing it. And I really wish I saved some so I can show people they were really great, great stuff, you know? Anybody can do this. And when you're in this zone in sixth dimension, you really are just all about transmitting information. You're like a scribe, you're transmitting information, okay? I will mention seventh dimension because somebody asked earlier about where I'm at. And seventh dimension seems interesting to me. I don't know if I'm there all the time. I doubt it. I don't think so. I think I kind of pop in every now and then, as does all of us, right? Nobody here is excluded at all. And seventh dimension is the vortexes. All right. You're in service to the evolution of consciousness, and it's vacillating through the dimensions. It's the realm of the mystics, the people who bring the knowledge, who share the information, who can tap into the inner sense of things. You know, when they speak, they raise the hair on the back of your neck. They send chills up and down your spine because they're not just speaking from words, they're speaking from the universe. And the universe is upon universes and dimensions within dimensions. It's like time folding in on itself is the feeling of being with a seventh dimension person. You're just awed. You're like, wow. Yes, it's like knowing the next steps to take. Absolutely. That's why if you ever feel stuck, this video is helping to remind you that there's so many dimensions. And remember, a dimension is not a fixed place in time. It's a point of perspective. It's a point of perception. Right, Esther Hicks. Yeah, the channelers. There you go. So those are dimensions. And what we have is the ascension period between 2015 to 2022, this 7 years. And within the 7 years, we're seeing a lot of rapid growth. We're seeing people that are on the third dimension beginning to have evolution towards fourth dimension. We're seeing the fourth dimensioners really becoming comfortable in the fifth dimension. We're seeing fifth dimensioners reach for sixth, and then we see the sixth just existing within the seventh. So we have a lot of the shifting happening. So as you can clearly guess by now, what does this mean on a physical level? It means that there's two things that need to happen: deprogramming and ascension. The ascension doesn't just come like that. You don't just wake up one day and, oh, I'm in fifth dimension, right? It's not like that. It's going to come with a little bit of pain. And the pain is the deprogramming. So what is deprogramming? It's literally unlearning. And you've probably heard healers and mystics talk about this period of unlearning, right? It's this period of letting go of who you thought you were and being in that space and consciousness to recreate yourself. It's kind of like saying, hello, allow me to reintroduce myself, right? This was, for me, symbolic when I changed my name from Alexandra to Uma, because my guru gave me the name Uma, which means the luminous and the serene, the enlightened. And it fit for me. And I said, all right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to reinvent. And I did. Okay. So with the reprogramming, the deprogramming, you're unlearning all the things that you were taught since you were a child. Whether your family taught it to you, your society, your community, your religion, your nationality, your culture, whether you're feminine or you're masculine, you're unlearning all of that, right? And what are some of the things that you're unlearning? About money, that you have to work really, really hard to make a lot of money, and that, to be wealthy is a bad thing, or it's, Only the wealthy are privileged. Like you're unlearning all of that. And you're saying, what does wealth mean to me? Is it just money, or is it wealth is health? Wealth is happiness. Wealth is joy. You're relearning. The same thing with relationships, right? They said the millennials, they had a study done where the millennials have the lowest divorce rate amongst all the generations. But it's not that they're getting married and staying married. What the millennials are doing is they're choosing to marry later in life. My brother's 30. He's not married. No intentions to. Don't even know when the kid will get married, right? And he has no interest in getting married. He's more interested in living life and working hard and spending time with his loved ones. And he's like, if I meet her, I meet her. If I don't, I don't. And you see that a lot with millennials coming up now. And then that's why when they do get married, they tend to be older, and it's based off of a lot of things in common with that person. So they tend to stay together longer. So they're reevaluating what it means to be in love and what love means. Raju said, yep, burned and crashed in the past years and saw a light known as truth at the end of the tunnel. Culture, marriage, true love, money, health, so many other things. That's it. It's you realizing that I'm here to live my life for myself, not for my society, not for my family, not for my children, not for my spouse, not for anybody. Sometimes I will tell you, I'm in this country, in America, I'm a minority woman. And sometimes I get drawn into the minority women way of life. And I try very hard to keep an open stance about everything. Now, I will support organizations that support minorities. That's not the problem. And I will have events for minority women, sure, but it's not my thing to identify with one thing. I don't want to be boxed in, right? I don't want to be boxed in because I don't see myself honestly as a minority woman. I don't see myself as a woman. I just see myself as a being that's here, that's making this beautiful life that fits for me. And that's why I think I piss so many people off, because I'm not living for you. I can't be put in your box. And I've gotten really good over the years of saying goodbye and letting people go instead of fighting to be in their lives when I clearly don't belong there. So when you rise in your dimensional thinking, in your perceptions, what happens is these goodbyes become easier. And the reason why the deprogramming is so hard to do is because some of us really cling to our belief systems. And the harder you cling to something, the harder it will be when it's yanked away from you. Right? Think about a Band-Aid that is barely hanging on to a Band-Aid that's like suckered on there. Which one's going to hurt more? The one that's really clinging tightly, that was just put on an hour ago as opposed to put on 10 days ago. So the biggest thing you can do in this ascension process is allow yourself to be very, very light and loose about the things you believe. That's going to be very helpful for you, is to be light and loose about the things that you believe. Start there and learn to keep an open mind. Really work on keeping an open mind concerning everyone, everything, every situation that comes up. You start training yourself, because I went through a period of deprogramming from September to now, to the 1st of December. And I'll tell you, it wasn't the first. By the way, the spiritual path, it's a spiral, right? Kind of like the, what's it, Fibonacci sequence, right? It's a spiral. So don't think you're going to go through one deprogramming and then that's it for life. No, you're going to go through several deprogrammings. My first deprogramming came back in 2008 when I decided I have a master's in healthcare management, minor in business management, bachelor's in food nutritional sciences. And my programming then was you had to work at a 9 to 5 to make money to survive and to have a good life. And I broke that mold in 2008 when I went out and became a massage therapist and created my own business. Now, I know the programming that I had to break from September to December because it came to me in dreams. And that's why I'm sharing this information, because as you're going through things, I want you to keep writing things down. I have journals upon journals upon journals that I have promised myself I need to burn before I die. Though it might be kind of interesting for you guys to see out there what I wrote after I die, because this mind is a crazy thing. But what I'll tell you is that in the deprogramming, it was quite painful because I had dreams where I was reliving my fears and I would wake up in sweat. And then spirit would tell me, we're burning it from you. But I didn't understand what burning it was. I mistakenly thought it was ascension. Ascension didn't come yet. You see, the deprogramming has to happen first. The removal of all these fears, the removal of all these old paradigms. I want you to think about the paradigms like dinosaurs. They're on their way out. One of the biggest paradigms, and I'm going to say it, some of you might not believe with me or agree with me, but I believe one of the biggest paradigms, two of the biggest paradigms that are going to be on the way out are religion and the institution of marriage. I believe those two are going to be out, and I'll tell you why. Now, I don't want you to panic if you're married. I don't want you to panic at all. Or if you're Christian or Muslim, I don't want you to panic. It's not happening right now, okay? But what's going to happen is that these things are shifting because so much differences are coming in. In the beginning, there was no marriage of one man to one woman. Even in the Christian, if you go back far enough in religious texts, all the way back, priests were allowed to marry. And they did like everybody else did in society back then. They had more than one wives. Everybody did. And then what happened was when they died, the church, the Catholic Church, had to take care of the priests and their children and their wives. So then they cut it down to you're only allowed to have one wife. Then they just cut it down to, all right, now you're celibate. So for those of you that think that, priests and nuns being celibate came from a holy place, it actually came from a really good business decision. 11/11 at this talk and had a realization. Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah. See, I'm not lying. And this is all out there. You can go Google it. You can search it. The history of the Catholic Church, the history of priesthood, right? Watch the Borgias. The Borgias, Borgesgias. It was like, was it Showtime or HBO? It was a series. But it's not even just the Borgias. Like if you look at the very first Pope, he had to like abscond the throne from his relative. It is crazy. It's all about politics and religion. And the same thing with marriage. So the marriage thing, the religion thing is there. And then the marriage thing, this need to have like one husband, it goes against the principle of unconditional love. Because if we're meant to love everyone, then why are you specifically choosing that one person to marry and stay with and be with? Because there's fear. There's fear in the sex. There's fear in this open and honest and raw communication and vulnerability with multiple people. Because what could we do? What could we be if we were not afraid all the time? If we were not afraid all this time, what could we be and do? And we all know that fear controls the masses. So they keep putting these paradigms, these dinosaurs in place. But you know what they did not account for is that the consciousness of us was going to and always will continue to rise. We are always going to rise. The soul is not here to be encaged. The soul is here to have experiences, and that's what's happening. So for those of you that are having the ascension process, what's happening is that you're refusing to follow the old paradigms. Do you think then that this is going to be easy? It's not. It's not going to be easy. And also, do you think the matrix exists, by the way, do you think the matrix is going to let you out easily? No, it's not. It's going to send your loved ones to you to say, you need to get married. You need to get an education. You need to buy a house. You need to have a mortgage. You need to follow this religious path. You need to do this. You need to do that. They're going to try to keep you in the confines of the matrix So don't think for a second you breaking out is going to be like a welcome home party. Hey, she did it. Yay. I mean, hell, Neo woke up in the belly of a beast, of an alien world, right? It's not going to be easy. They're not going to let you out. Just because you had the awakening and the understanding doesn't mean anything. And now comes the hard work. It's you busting free and you busting out. And you have to decide for yourself if it's worth it. For me, it was hella worth it. I didn't care. I lost people, I lost friends, I lost family. It is what it is. I'm still going because you can't get me to go back in that cage. You just can't get me to go back in the cage. Once you're out, you're out. The freedom is indescribable. So for some of you, if you're feeling to pull away from people, or you're just feeling to lay on your couch and Netflix and chill for a whole weekend instead of going out, be kind to yourself and understand this is where you're coming from. Because on a personal level, you're tired of the BS. Because by the way, too, do you remember Matrix, right? With Agent, God forgot his name, Agent something. When he made like multiples of him, like thousands of him, right? They're not going to leave you alone. And they're not going to come at you. I mean, in the beginning, when he was trying to get Neo, he didn't tell him who he was, what he was doing, who he was working for. He was trying to get him in a way, in a roundabout way. And that's what the Matrix does. They send people into your life to try to get you and to take you off your game in a roundabout way. And that's why you're getting tired, because you're hearing them, you're seeing them, but yet on the inside, you're not feeling what they're saying, and it's tiring you out. How many of you are exhausted? Hearts up, hands up, like the video. How many of you are exhausted? You're exhausted because you're dealing with the aliens out there, that are trying to keep the matrix going, and you're breaking out of the matrix. So the ascension symptoms is different than the deprogramming. The deprogramming to me, and I have to again say this because I'm not an expert on this, I'm sharing from my own personal experience. The deprogramming for me is the headaches. As you're readjusting your brain waves on all of these new thoughts, these new ideas, and you're removing the paradigms. That's what the deprogramming is for me. It's the body aches. Right? Because we store information in our cells, in our tissues, in our glands, in our bones. We store it. And then as we start the awakening process and we're doing our practices like meditating and yoga and sitting in the power and having spiritual discussions like this, as we keep awakening, then what happens is the body starts to hurt because all those things you started to store, all those things you stored started to move. And the movement is what's causing the pain. Thank you, Wahida, Venturia, hands up, hands up. Yeah, right? So if you're having the aches and pains in the body, if you're having the headaches, the sore throat, why? Why the sore throat? Yeah, every morning, Wahida says, waking up like exhausted, like I ran 5 miles. That's it, cuz you're deprogramming. You're beginning to think for yourself, right? And then the sore throat is as your voice box is gearing up to go, it's removing all that cobweb that was put there, all that sticky, that sticky stuff. It's removing it, and you're feeling it like you're clearing your throat. You're clearing your throat. And it's also the emotions are coming up. Thanks, Julie. The emotions are coming up as well. All the old emotions, right? And what you want to think about is if I have an icky feeling, because that's how we feel. We're like, oh, this feels icky, but we're not sure what the ickiness is. What I tell myself is, when was the first time I felt this? When was the first time I felt this? When was the first time I felt this? I remember I have this terrible aunt that I talk about all the time that she traumatized me when I was a kid. Wahida, you know who I'm talking about. My mother's sister. And she traumatized me my whole life growing up. And I just have like these flashbacks of memories. It's almost like I'm healing or something from it. And I didn't realize how bad it was because as a child, you just tend to tune things out. But it was interesting because I I had this really weird flashback when I did that. I had an icky feeling that came about from something that happened here. So, like, this is what I'm going to show you how this spiral works. Okay. So, I'm deprogramming about 3 or 4 years ago. Can't remember. No, it was about 2015. Yeah. I'm deprogramming in 2015. And I have this icky feeling. And I say to myself, when's the first time I had this? When's the first time I had this? And I got a flash to me when I was about 8 or 9 years old in the kitchen. And I was standing in the kitchen, and my mom and her sister were fighting. I think my aunt wanted to do something, and my mom said no, she couldn't do it. And she was mad. And then when she stormed off, she turned back and she looked at me. And I had drawn something on paper or something. I was like a little kid. I'd drawn something, and she looked at me and she said something like, "You'll never amount to anything." Um, Something along that, that, like, she was just mean. She was just whatever. So what's interesting is that scenario played back again in 2015 when it came to my business. It was 2017. Now I remember because it was a friend of mine. It was 2016. I apologize. I was opening my massage school. And I was so excited to own a second business because I want to have multiple businesses. And I was opening my second business. And my friend said to me, Spirit's telling me that this is not for you. I don't think this is for you. And it was just an icky feeling. I'm like, wait, where's this? Where is this coming from? And I went back to that memory. So that's part of the deprogramming. Can I get a show of hands? Has anybody felt that, or is it just me? Anybody felt that? That's what the deprogramming is. Okay. It's about letting go of that heavy ick feeling. Raju, Venturia. Thank you, guys. It's about having that heavy ick feeling, and you're like, where is this coming from? It's more than likely something that was coming up before that needed to clear. And what I did with that clearing, getting out of your own way. Yeah. What I did with that clearing was break the hold of people telling me what to do. That's what I had to do with that clearing. I had to break the hold of people telling me what to do. Now, notice I didn't say break the aunt, break the friend, right? It's not about them. It's never about them. It's about us. And they are both beautiful teachers in my life because they both taught me that people are allowed to have perceptions and perspectives, but it got nothing to do with me. By the way, my massage school, thriving. Okay, thriving. So, but I had to break that first. Yeah, break the experience, break the mold of that hold, learn the lesson. All right. So those are the deprogramming symptoms you're feeling. The exhaustion, the tiredness, the fatigue, the pulling in, not wanting to be around people, because as you're deprogramming, you don't want to be around people. So they put in some more junk, some more crap. So you're kind of like, I want to be by myself. Right? So exhaustion, tired, fatigue, pulling away from people, the sore throat, right? The aches in the body, the sweating it out in dreams. You're unraveling the matrix's hold on you. Wahida says, naysayers all day, every day. That's how I know I'm headed in the right direction. People are hating. If they're hating you, was it Richard Branson? I adore Richard Branson. He's the creator of Virgin America, Virgin Atlantic, all the, the Virgin flights, the Virgin music. And he had said a long time ago in one of those interviews, if people are hating you, then you're on the right path. You're doing something right because you're riling them up. But you know what you're doing? You're actually riling them up to themselves, allow themselves to leave the matrix at some point. If so many people are irritated by you, because I irritate people all day, every day. People get so irritated by my presence to laugh because it's awesome. You know why? Because I'm breaking the mold and I'm showing people how to do it. So if you're irritating people, don't get sad, get glad, right? Get happy about it because the irritation is the start of the breaking of the matrix's hold on that person. So you may not be their teacher because they're so irritated by you and they're just going to keep being irritated, but best believe you're in a way their teacher and you're starting their awakening process. And either they're going to come right back to you to learn from you, or they'll go somewhere else. But you can take that knowing that you helped transform them. Does that make sense? So that's all signs of deprogramming. And then you go into the ascension. And what the ascension is, oh, it's 11:30. I have to go. I actually have lunch date. What the ascension is the uplifting now. So it's when you start to feel the tingles in the back and you're just joyful for no reason and you're just all is well with the world and kumbaya, baby, let's do this, right? That's what the ascension is. That's the ascension. And it's lighter. It's better dreams. It's synchronicity. It's abundance coming in because now you're in a different dimension. Okay. It's the change in diet. Like you might start to eat healthier or eat more food from the ground. It's the change in friends, the need to like hang out with certain types of people and stay away from others. It's the need for travel and for growth and expansion, the wanting to read inspirational books, listen to inspirational music. That's the ascension process. So I have to run because I forgot I had a lunch date with my girlfriends. They're going to kill me. I didn't realize we were going to be talking for an hour, but I think we had to say these things, right? So your homework is to find out, are you deprogramming? Are you ascending? Did it happen? Are you on the new dimension? Where are you in the new dimension? And can you be easy with yourself if you are still third or fourth dimension and allow yourself to grow at the rate your soul wants to grow? Oh, thank you, Venturia. Thank you, Raju. Thank you guys so much for sticking around with me. I wish I could stay back and have some talks. Hi, Stephanie. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, telling me that you love it. Thank you guys so much for sticking around with me. I can't believe I talked for an hour, but I think Spirit really needed to get some stuff out. For those of you that are new to my channel, I'm going to be at the end of the year, New Year, New You workshop in Virginia. And then in January, I'm starting my mentorship programs. Thanks, Penny. So I'll be doing more videos. Look to Fridays. Fridays is going to be my fun and fearless Fridays where I'm going to post and come on and just share about whatever Spirit wants me to talk about for that week. All right. All right, guys. Thank you. Love you. And I'll see you soon.